Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience applying to university, choosing which uni to go to, choosing which course to do, and eventually how I ended up going to Southampton. This video is actually part of a two-part little mini-series, so in this video obviously I'm going to be talking about my experience applying to university, and in the next video you're going to see is my experience at university. So if you don't know, I'm Beth, hello. I did a 3-year degree at Southampton in maths, so my degree title is BSc Mathematics, and I got a first, woo! I finished that a whole year ago now, so I'm kind of making these videos a year on, kind of reflecting on my whole experience, because it's good to reflect on things. And I actually haven't spoken about my university experience since leaving, so I think a year on now is a good time. So rewind to 5 years ago when I was starting to look at universities. I think for me, university had always been on the table. I assumed it of myself, and also people around me assumed it of me, that I would go to university. So when it came to the first year of college and we started to talk about what we were going to do with our futures, I started considering that there were other options, and it was really good that my college did bring in lots of people to talk to us about options other than university. Different companies who offered apprenticeships came in. We had people who ran like gap year travel companies, and then as well there were obviously different universities who had their prospectuses. Not only were there the universities there, and I could talk to current at the time students, and find out what courses were actually available, because at that point I wasn't really that sure at all what I wanted to do and what was available to me, but also it gave me the chance to consider other options. So I did have a look at the information on gap years, and I did have a look at the information on apprenticeship. I'd say maybe 90% of me considered them as options but decided that university was just the right track for me. But there was maybe like the 10% left over, liked the idea of them but was a bit too hesitant and a bit too scared to stray from the conventional path, because even though going to university isn't like the norm, the thing that everyone's expected to do, people who were like me academically, they do generally go to university. So I got all A stars on A's at GCSE, and I was predicted all A's at A level. And the A levels I was doing, I should probably mention this, was maths, further maths, Spanish, and then I did AS psychology as well. And with maths, which is obviously the route that I ended up going down, at least at the time it felt to me like that was the only option going to university. I felt like there was this pressure not to take a gap year because maths was for some reason too like snobby for gap years, but that's not true at all. Loads of people on my course took gap years, loads of people started later on. There's a video on my channel that I made with my friend Sophie about taking a gap year, which she did, versus going straight to university, which I did. So if you're interested in that, I'll link it in the cards. So I've decided that university is the path I'm going to go down. That's the right option for me. Then I have to decide what I want to study. It was always very likely that it was going to be maths. Right from a young age, maths had been my best subject. It always came really naturally to me. I ended up taking my GCSE early because I was good at maths. I've always been good at it. A lot of people who found GCSE maths pretty okay started struggling a lot with A-level maths, but that never really happened to me. I definitely worked hard, but it wasn't like an uphill battle. It wasn't like I really had to fight for it. I just kind of sailed through it. I worked hard, but there was never any kind of resistance that I faced. Like it just came to me naturally. At the same time, I was obviously doing my A-level Spanish, really enjoying it. I felt like I was making a lot of progress, and I wanted to keep it up because learning a language is really hard, and you have to obviously practice it in order to keep your levels up. Spoiler alert, I haven't practiced it. I can understand it written, I can sometimes understand it spoken, but I don't think I could speak much anymore. These decisions were all going on during my first year of college, so at the time I was doing my ASs, so I was still doing psychology, and I don't know, it's probably not the same anymore because you don't do ASs, but at the time you did 4 subjects in your first year and they were your ASs, and then you dropped 1 and you did 3 in your second year and they were your A-levels. So depending on what you decided to do with your future, it would kind of influence which subject you were going to drop. I did consider studying psychology because I liked all the subjects that I was doing at A-level, but I think in the end, deep down, I just knew that of the 3, maths, Spanish, psychology, that was definitely my lowest priority. I kind of just took that one out of the running and I was left with the maths and the Spanish. I considered doing just Spanish or maybe taking up another language as well, because I did do German at GCSE and I liked learning languages. I would happily start up a new one. There was obviously the option to do maths, straight maths. And then I also considered doing a joint honours, maths and Spanish, maths with Spanish, Spanish and maths. Different universities offered different courses with like different weightings of each one. I think that was a factor which really influenced the universities that I ended up going to look at. The maths with Spanish was the one that came up the most. If they had that, that was an extra option for me to look at, so they kind of came up higher in my list. Over the summer between the first and second year of college, so year 12 and year 13, I went to a couple of different open days. I remember I went to one at City University in London just for plain old maths. I went to one at SOAS. I think that was for just languages in general. As much as I enjoyed that open day and really enjoyed all the different taster sessions for the different languages, it made me realise that I didn't want new languages to be a major part of my degree. I wouldn't mind learning a new language as like 1 or 2 modules, but I didn't want it to be like the whole of my degree. By the time it was September and I was back at college, I'd kind of made the decision that I was going to be studying maths. I can't remember exactly what it was that made that decision for me. I think it was just that I'd had a bit of time to think, and I realised that maths was my strongest subject. It was the one which came easiest to me. I was interested in it. It just seemed like the natural choice and the right choice to make. I was still considering doing Spanish as part of that, so either a joint honours thing or a maths with Spanish kind of thing. Coming on to deciding which unis to apply for, I was looking, I think I only looked at Russell Group unis. Not specifically because they were Russell Group unis, but I liked the course they had. I liked the look of the module options on the maths course. If they offered maths with Spanish, that was a bonus. I wasn't super fussed about rankings in tables, but the ones that I did end up applying for were ones which were kind of highly regarded. There was an expectation from certain people that I was going to apply to Oxford and Cambridge, which I knew, like, within myself just wasn't the right choice for me. I was really academic, very dedicated to my studies. I got all A stars and A's at GCSE. I was predicted all A's at A level, so it was definitely something that, you know, I would be the kind of typical candidate for. As you may know, if you're new here you won't know, but the last couple of years of school I really struggled with my mental health, and a lot of that was due to academic pressure. So not only did I know that Oxbridge would be a bad decision for me health-wise, but I guess my experience over the last couple of years kind of put me off that really highly competitive, high-stakes academia that often comes with universities like Oxford and Cambridge. That's not to say, of course, that Oxbridge is always like that. I know it's a bit of a stereotype, but I think it's at least a little bit true. I wanted to study, but I didn't want all of that pressure. So no disrespect if you go to one of those universities, great if it's for you, but I just knew that it wasn't for me. So Oxbridge was completely out of the picture at this point, and I ended up going to a couple of different open days, as well as the couple that I went to over the summer, which I mentioned. I remember I went to Southampton, Warwick. I think that was it, actually. I think I went to Southampton and Warwick before I applied anywhere, and I decided that I liked them both. I ended up applying for Southampton, Warwick, Reading, Bath and Exeter. All of them were asking for similar kind of grades. I think the highest was Warwick, and they were asking for A star AA if I remember rightly, and the lowest was Reading, and they were asking for AAB. I think I submitted my personal statement and my application around December time. I heard back from all of them apart from one really quickly, and then the final one, I think it might have been Bath, I can't remember, it was quite a long time ago, but they took a while to come back, and I was just waiting and waiting for this final offer to come in. I wanted to have all my offers back in before I made my final decision, obviously, so I knew what options were actually available to me. All 5 universities offered me a place. None of them gave me any kind of special offer like an unconditional or lower entry requirements, or firming them would guarantee me a place or anything like that. They were just all like your bog standard offers, which then made my decision a little bit harder because none of them were tempting me to put them as my firm choice. And then I think around February time, so just for context, this was 2015 now, so the year that I was actually going to go to university, I started going to, I think they were called offer holder days. So if you had an offer from a university, you get to go on a special day which was more specific than an open day, and you kind of meet people from your specific course and have more detailed taster sessions and lectures and stuff like that. I think I went to 3 of those. I definitely went to Reading, went with my mum on that one. I went to Exeter and I went back to Southampton. So Southampton's the only uni that I visited twice, and it's the one I ended up going to. I didn't actually end up visiting Bath at all. It was kind of just there to fill out that 5th place just in case I needed it. I didn't mention this, and I really should have done because I was just talking about it. But what I ended up doing is I decided to just apply for straight maths. BSc Mathematics, I think the code was like G100, because I did want to do the maths with Spanish, I really did, but because I was dithering on my decision, I decided what I would do is apply for straight maths, and then once I made my decision, if I decided I wanted to do the Spanish, all of the places that I applied to, I think, offered maths with Spanish, and it would be really easy to switch. I made sure that that was the case. And that way as well, it meant that I only had to write my personal statement on one subject. I found it a lot easier to just write about one thing, because writing is not my strong point. From the offer holder days, I really liked Exeter, but there was something about Southampton which I just felt a lot more comfortable there. 3 of the reasons I actually decided Southampton over the others was they had a cat, she's now dead, R.I.P. Susu. If you lived in halls at Southampton, you automatically got a free bus pass for the year, and if you don't know me, I get very anxious travelling, so that was kind of one less thing to worry about, was the travel aspect of everything, because they were just going to give me a bus pass and it'll be fine. And thirdly, they offered a scholarship. I think it was £1,000 if you exceeded your offer for certain subjects, and maths was one of them. I'd also explored the city and really liked the city. I don't know why I like the city, because looking back after having lived in Southampton for 3 years, and it's just all grey concrete because it was bombed in the war and everything was built up again in the 50s and 60s, and it's very ugly. I don't know what it was about the city that I really liked at the time I visited it, but there was something that I really liked, obviously, because I wanted to go there. My boyfriend Jacob, we've been together since before I even started looking at university, since the first year of college. He was also applying to university that year to do music production, and he had looked at Southampton Solent and had decided more or less that that was his favourite one and he was going to go there. And then that made my decision really difficult, because obviously you don't want your whole future dictated by a relationship that you've had at age 16 and 17. Either you're going to break up and you're gonna go your separate ways, or you're gonna stay together and try and work through like a long distance thing, and at the same time you're hearing stories from your friends in the year above that relationships just don't last at uni, and everybody who you knew were like in a really nice secure relationship in 6th form broke up once they got to uni. So it just feels a bit hopeless. Like I said, at the same time, I didn't want to dictate my future based on my relationship. Like, it just wasn't sensible at all, and I wanted to have my own life. We never like visited together, we never planned to go to uni together, but we both separately liked Southampton the most, and that, for me, it made it really difficult, because I didn't know whether I just liked Southampton because Jacob liked Southampton. Even though I knew that I didn't, because I'd been there separately. I actually went there before him and decided that I really liked it, but there was this thing in my head saying, what if really you're just trying to find a way to stay together and you're gonna dictate your whole future based on this relationship, which at that point we'd only been together for a year, I guess. So when it came to actually making that final decision and choosing the firm and the insurance, I put it off for so long. Jacob had already firmed Solent. I was just very reluctant to firm Southampton in case my mind was playing a trick on me, and really I was just gonna be going there because my boyfriend was. Eventually, I was brave enough to just be like, look, I like Southampton. Whether or not Jacob's gonna be there, that was my favourite one, so I'm gonna firm it. So I eventually firmed Southampton, and my second choice, my insurance, I put as Reading. The only reason I put Reading as my insurance was because they were the next lowest offer. Southampton offered AAA. Exeter were probably my next favourite. I really liked Exeter, but they also offered me AAA, so there was no point in putting them as my second choice, because if I didn't get the grades for the first one, I wouldn't be able to fall back on Exeter if it was my insurance choice, because I wouldn't have got the grades for them either. So I kind of had to put Reading. I already kind of spoke about why I didn't put Bath on there. It just wasn't really on my radar. I only applied just for the sake of making it up to 5 universities. The reason I didn't choose Warwick, because I did really like Warwick as a university and as a maths course. From what I remember, they offered me A-star AA, but as well as that, I also had to take the STEP exam, which is the entry exam that is designed by Cambridge University, and it was very hard. The jump between the work we were doing in AS maths and then the STEP exams was huge. Like, I didn't even know what half of it meant. It was a lot of proof stuff, and I like to think that I'd be able to do it now. I think that would actually be quite a fun thing to try. Sorry if that's really nerdy, but I think I would quite enjoy seeing if I could do the step paper now. But at the time, it was horrific to me. And the person who ran the step workshops at lunchtime was horrible. He was evil. He never taught us anything. He just projected the questions on the board, told us to do them, and then when we couldn't do them, he would just yell at us. I didn't enjoy it, so I just stopped going. I mean, I think I could have passed if I'd really wanted to and I'd really given it my all. I could have understood what was going on and taken the exam and passed. But, like I was mentioning before, I didn't want any academic pressure. I'd have preferred to actually put that time into definitely getting my grade for one of the other 4 unis, which didn't require the step paper, rather than make myself miserable trying to understand this paper, which at the time for me was just impossible. It felt so hard. I'm sure it can't have been that hard, but it felt it. And I didn't want to do it, so I didn't. And I don't regret that at all. I don't think like, oh, I should have just given it a shot. So then I guess the last bit was just a waiting game, finding out whether or not I'd got in. So I obviously had to wait till results day, which was in the middle of August. Jacob, because he was at, I think he did one of those level 3 BTECs or something, the one that's like, you do one subject, but it's equivalent to 3 A levels. So he did some kind of music production thing, and it was all coursework. So he knew his grade and he knew that he'd got into the Solent University. So at this point, even though I wasn't going to Southampton for Jacob, our relationship was kind of hanging in the balance because we didn't know whether we were going to be living in the same city or not. There was a lot riding on my results, not only my future, but kind of Jacob's future and our relationship's future as well. And as well as that, if I'd exceeded my offer for Southampton, it was an extra £1,000 of scholarship money. So I really, really wanted to get good grades. In fact, actually on results day, my results were A star, A B, A star in maths, A in further maths, B in Spanish. When I saw that it was A star, A B rather than the AAA that I needed for Southampton, I was really worried because even though they're kind of equivalent, I wasn't sure whether they would count and they would let me in or not, but they did. Then I got my Spanish remarked and went up to an A. So that meant I had exceeded my offer, which meant I ended up getting the scholarship money as well. And I bought my laptop with it. I think there was only a month between getting my results and finding out where I was going and then moving in. Like, that was such a quick turnaround and my life just seemed to change so fast. And then suddenly I had this whole new life in a whole new city. So that was my experience applying to university and how I ended up at Southampton. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have any questions about Southampton or maybe applying to uni, I can try and help. It was quite a long time ago now and the system's changed, but if you have any questions, I can give it a go. But questions about Southampton, I can answer those. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and also maybe subscribe, because next time I am uploading my whole university experience video. The 3 years that I was at university was a bit of a roller coaster, so if you want to see that drama, stay tuned for the next video because I will go into it. And I also make videos about mental health, minimalism, other lifestyle-y things, so it's worth sticking around. Anyway, thank you very much for watching and I will see you very soon.